Hello, welcome to Stratfor. I'm Mark Schroeder, our Vice President for Africa Operations. I'm joined today by Stephen Rakowski, an analyst on our Africa team. Stephen, welcome, and good to speak with you. You're working on an analysis that will be published shortly that describes French geopolitical behavior in Africa. We have seen consecutive French governments state an intent to reduce or rationalize their military posture in Africa. Yet, we've seen France play quite an aggressive role in the Africa region. Could you describe for us what drives French geopolitical behavior? What imperatives compel French foreign and defense policy in the Africa region?
Sure, Mark. France, because of its unique history or legacy across the African continent in its former colonies, maintains very important economic considerations. And this helps drive their imperatives across the area. Specifically, France's imperatives relate to the connectivity and supply chain movement of goods, personnel, etc., and that this is very important for France.
Could you give us a few examples of, in recent times, where France has intervened or even chose to non-interfere when there has been turmoil in Africa?
Sure. There are numerous cases in the past 5 years, for example, in Mali, Ivory Coast, Central African Republic, Chad. Specifically, in the situation of Mali, previously there had been an ongoing Tuareg rebellion in the north. This did not necessarily threaten France's security imperatives in the country or across the region. However, when the Islamist rebellion started moving south, picking up speed, this threatened the supply chain and other forms of connectivity for the French, and that's when we saw them intervene through Operation Serval.
Now, as we pay attention to France's foreign and defense imperatives in Africa, let's look forward. Let's think about what potential hotspots, what areas of potential turmoil in Africa should we be looking at, for France to involve itself directly or indirectly?
Right. The interesting thing about France's recent posturing in the continent is it seems to oscillate between being reactive and being proactive. And one important point to mention before I continue with the question is that when France is reading a situation, interference or non-interference may benefit France either way. So when we're looking at potential crises with weak states across the Sahel region, for example, the situation in Mauritania is very telling. In our assessment, Mauritania is a weak state under the best of circumstances. However, now the state is faced with dwindling resources that have historically been used to buy patronage for disparate tribal factions, aligning them closer with the central government. Now we see, one, the dwindling of resources, but two, the concentration of those resources in the hands of the president and his clan. This, no doubt, is agitating these factions that the support of Nouakchott, the central government, needs. Going forward, if the government continues along this path, continually agitating these tribal factions, we may see resentment build. And then in Mauritania, historically, the way of addressing the situation has been the coup d'etat. And essentially, it's possible that these tribal factions will rise up against the president, try to dislodge him in order to reset the balance of patronage in the country. Now, Mauritania is particularly interesting since there is a presence of AQIM, Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. They have previously used Mauritania as a transit zone to carry out attacks in Mali, for example. Essentially, Mauritania, while a member of regional counterterrorism organizations, it still more or less falls outside of the zone of France's Operation Barkhane, at least compared to Mali, Burkina Faso, etc. And we may then see France assert its security imperatives if the situation in Mauritania deteriorates.
Thank you, Stephen, for that very helpful explanation. Thank you for joining us at Stratfor. For more information, please stay tuned at stratfor.com.